so lovely.
Hello lovely people and welcome back to this week's new video. I am so excited because this video is the start of a new series that I am starting on my channel. This is my first ever series, I think, in which I will be picking booktubers specifically and reading their favorite books. I am calling this series Smash or Pass. Ha ha ha. So for the very first booktuber that I've chosen, I have picked Riley Marie, who I really very much love. I've binge watched most, if not all, of her videos, especially her reading vlogs. I thought it would be interesting to see if our tastes match up in terms of books. So I have picked 5 of Riley's favorite books. I have tried to pick books from this year, books that she has already said are her favorites. Some of them are books that are like her all-time favorites, and then some I chose that are 5 stars on her Goodreads. So the books that I've chosen as Riley's favorites are Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire, The Girl in Red by Christina Henry, Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa, The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. I am so excited to be starting this new series, and I have a list of other booktubers that I want to be doing as well, so I hope you guys are interested in watching this, and let's just get into it. She has talked about this a lot. She really loves Seanan McGuire, and also on her Goodreads in her review she says that if you take away any book as her favorite or book recommendation, her #1 pick would definitely be this book, so how could I not pick it? This book follows Nancy, who is sent to a boarding school for children who have entered doorways into magical worlds, run by a woman named Eleanor West, and it's called the Wayward Home for Children. Imagine like Alice in Wonderland. Alice entered into Wonderland, which is a magical world that not everyone can enter, and she comes back into the real world. So it's for children who have gone through that so they can adjust into the real world sort of, and to be surrounded by people who understand their experiences. When Nancy comes to the school, there's just something weird going on. There's a darkness that comes with her, and people are very suspicious of Nancy. But when tragedy occurs at the school, Nancy and her schoolmates need to figure out what actually is going on. I kind of wanted to finish this in one day / in one sitting, but since I'm dog sitting, that doesn't seem very realistic. I'm still only on page 58, and it's not even 200 pages though, so hopefully I could finish it by today, or at least before I go to the library tomorrow, because it's only like 170 pages. I'm enjoying it so far. It's like okay. Nancy is at the home for wayward children. That's what it's called, right? I keep mixing that up with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. She's like just about to start her orientation with Lundy, and that's where I'm at. It's like okay so far, but it's really short, so I don't really know like how that's gonna go. I'm not quite sure if it's YA yet. I haven't formed any real opinion about it. That's how it's going. I returned Every Heart a Doorway to the library today, so we don't have the copy, and I could have done this clip yesterday because I finished the book almost 24 hours ago, but I forgot after having written my review for it on Goodreads. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I really did enjoy this book, but the book is 169 pages long. That's really fucking short. Okay, so I felt like the book had a lot of potential, but I wanted it to be a lot longer because I felt the concept of the story was very interesting. Like, what does happen to these kids after they fall into this fantasy world? How many of them want to go back? How do they struggle with being back in a world that they feel where people don't understand them? Also, as a mystery novel, it didn't feel like much of a mystery at all because I figured out who it was right the fuck away. There weren't any subtle clues. It was just really bam right in your face. Not even a clue like telling you this is who it is, which was very disappointing. Like, I know it's young adult, but even then I felt it was way too obvious, and I was very disappointed by that. I felt like the book could have been longer by adding more detail to, or even just talking about the concept of these kids going into these doorways into different worlds. Riley read this book for Spookathon, and in her most recently uploaded video, yes, I'm doing this very late at Thanksgiving, she said that this was one of her favorite books of the season. So this is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. The crisis occurs, it's with a capital C, where everyone is coughing, and that is what is getting them sick. They're like coughing up blood and stuff like that, and Red was fucking prepared from the beginning. She had a go bag that she carried with her everywhere so she could always be prepared to leave, and so she could practice like carrying all this weight on her when she actually needed to go. So when the crisis actually occurs and there's an outbreak in her town, she knows she has to go. She is out on her way to her grandma's house. She ends up alone in the woods and she must fend for herself. So yesterday I started The Girl in Red, and this is my second day reading it, and I'm on page 120. It's interesting so far. It flips back and forth between before and after, so it explains like where Red is now, what she's doing, and before, like why she's being put in this situation and whatnot, like what she's been doing to survive so far. And it's interesting. I'm not like in love with it so far, but it very much gives me Walking Dead vibes because of the post-apocalyptic world and people getting sick and stuff. I just finished The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. This one, I think I liked it better than Every Heart a Doorway. I'm gonna give this book 4 stars. I really liked it that this is a post-apocalyptic world, and Red is basically this young woman surviving on her own, which I really like, that she was a strong woman. And also there was like a little tiny reveal that she was bi. She never really explored that before, so I'm not really sure how that's gonna go in an apocalyptic world, but I really liked it. I was really close to the end and I wasn't sure how this book was going to end because a lot of things were happening. I really liked that in this she meets like the government type people, and she was able to find out some of the answers to her questions of what was going on, why, and it was a really good story. And I really like Red and how she was really prepared for this situation. I don't know how I would be in a situation where this cough happened and people started dying and spurting out blood from their mouths and their eyes. Yeah, I really liked it. And next, I think I'm going to finally move on into a romance. Riley has said that Tessa Dare is one of her favorite romance authors, so how could I not pick? Riley is very well known for her romance recommendations for reading romance books in the BookTube community. I believe she is one of the founders of Smut-a-thon, which is a readathon to read smutty books. This is also the second book in the Castles Ever After series, but she said you don't need to read them in order because it doesn't follow the same exact characters, so I started with book number 2. Cleo has been waiting to marry her fiance, who is the Marquess of Granville, named Piers, for 8 years, and that's a really long time. So she's tired of waiting and she feels that she needs to get back her pride, and she plans to break off the engagement. She calls on Rafe, who is Piers's brother, to help her, but he is having none of that. Rafe is a prize-winning fighter and he has gained this title of his own, but he doesn't want to watch his brother, his older brother, lose out on his title either, so he is doing everything he can to make the wedding happen, even if it means planning it himself. I just finished reading Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa Dare over the course of 2 or 3 days, I think, and I liked it. I'm giving it 4 stars. It wasn't like enough to tug on my heartstrings, which is why it didn't go up to 4 or 5 stars, but I definitely enjoyed it more than I did The Girl in Red and Every Heart a Doorway, so things are looking up from now. Hope I don't jinx it, knock on wood. I definitely was in it for the smut. I liked Tessa Dare's writing. It was really sweet, and I appreciated that the main character Cleo was implied that she's thick or is curvy and isn't the conventional tiny skinny woman. She has these curves and this man appreciates it, and that she doesn't need to be married. She wants to create her own business, and I was totally here for that, and I feel like it was really modern for historical fiction, and I really liked that. I think at least Riley and I's taste in romance books are very well matched. There's a second book that's coming out for this as well, that's coming out in March of 2020. Calla's mom took her and she decided to leave the Alaskan wilds when Calla was only 2 years old, leaving behind her father Ren. Flash forward to the present, Calla is now 26 years old and she's living in Toronto with her mom and her stepfather. But when she gets an email / phone call telling her that her father is sick and might not make it, she wants some closure and she decides to head to Alaska, where she hasn't been back since she was 2 years old. Life in Alaska is almost the complete opposite of how she lives in Toronto, so she's very taken by surprise and not used to this environment at all. On the other hand, Jonah, who is a pilot in her father's charter plane company, cannot imagine life anywhere else. He loves Alaska and he thinks that Calla should go back to where she belongs. She's a big city girl who could never handle Alaska. But Calla wants to prove him wrong, and in that process they become friends, and then that leads to something else, ... So with this unexpected bond, she's very conflicted, but Calla knows that she eventually has to go back to Toronto and that Jonah will never leave. This is exactly the same path that her parents went down and failed, so is it worth it? I'm not sure how far into this book I am, like percentage wise. I would say maybe a little over halfway of The Simple Wild, and I really am enjoying it. It's very easy to fly through this book. I'm going through it so quickly. Some connections that I wanted to make were that I think that this Jonah and Calla relationship is hate to love, and it's very like middle schooly, like, oh, he's teasing you because he has a crush on you type of thing, which is very nostalgic and funny because Calla's in her late 20s and Jonah is like 31 or something. And the connection that I wanted to make was that Calla, not that she's like super high maintenance, but she reminds me of Alexis from Schitt's Creek. That's how I'm imagining her, and I guess that would make Jonah, what's his name? Mutt. I haven't watched a show in so long. Not that Calla is so high maintenance and she's like so clueless and all about like this and this, but she did pack a huge amount of clothes and she wears like a ton of makeup every day, which is fine, but she's just coming into a new self when she meets Jonah, which I'm now seeing, and I think it's good for her to like experience this new side of her where she doesn't need to dress up because that's not what people do in Alaska. Anyway, I'm really enjoying it. It's taking me a while to read it. I missed a day of reading like 2 days ago. It's okay because I really like this book. Book number 4 has been completed. It took me a while to finish because, say it with me kids, I don't get a lot of reading done on the weekends, and I got to read because I had an early start with him coming in the morning, and I'm giving this book 4.5 stars. I really liked it, and I am interested in reading more of K.A. Tucker's books. I think The Simple Wild was the first in a series. I haven't looked into it much, but I'm not sure if it's going to be about Calla again, but I really did like it. I'm thinking after reading Say Yes to the Marquess that I like seeing not necessarily the couple, but the main character and the main love interest together for longer. Like with Say Yes to Marquess, there was only really one scene, like one sex scene, and so it was very much towards the end. And not saying that it needs to only be about sex, but I am liking when they have time together as a sort of couple after they've hooked up. If there's not going to be a lot of them together, I like it when there's a lot of like sexual tension, or just tension where there's a lot of like lingering looks and things like that. I think Bringing Down the Duke did a really good job of that. I really enjoyed reading that. Oh my god, look at him. Look at the baby. He just wants to be close. That I think I liked better than with Say Yes to the Marquess, which is why I bumped this up half star. And then now it's time to move on to the last book. Shire Price lied her way into a mining expedition that could be very dangerous. She would be the only caver going on the expedition to find mineral deposits. This is a sci-fi fantasy book. This book doesn't take place on Earth, so the expedition is very dangerous. She could possibly die on this expedition, and that's why the paycheck at the very end is like a lot of money, and with that money she wants to use it to find her mother. When she goes on the expedition, she gets put into the suit, sort of like an astronaut suit, to help her survive, breathe, give her all the nutrients that she needs. And the person controlling it, they're supposed to be a team usually, but she finds that it's only one person, who is M. Now M knows that Shire actually lied her way into this expedition. But turns out that M is a control freak and she has secrets of her own. Shire is afraid because she knows that M is controlling her suit and that she could potentially kill her, and she knows about Shire's secret, so she knows that she needs to comply with whatever demands that she has. So she thinks that gaining her trust and having an amicable relationship with her is the only way that she can get out of this expedition alive. I'm on page 196 of The Luminous Dead by Starling. Did I say that weird? Luminous. And I'm liking it, I guess. It's losing me a little bit. I don't know if it's because I'm rushing to finish it today so that I could return it to the library, and I still have over 200 pages of it to read. I'm rushing, but that might be a factor. This book is a little bit confusing. I wasn't understanding that it was like the sci-fi part was that they are off planet, like they don't live on Earth anymore, which is why Shire is on this expedition to look for some minerals or something. I'm not exactly sure what she was told when she was sent on this expedition. It's like a little bit confusing. And then there's this thing called tunnelers, which is killing the people that go on this expedition. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm sort of envisioning, like, I only know the movie name in Japanese, but it's a Studio Ghibli film called Nausicaa or Nausicaa, and those bug type looking things that come up in that's what I'm envisioning for this. No one really knows what they look like because they like die when they encounter the tunnelers. So I finished The Luminous Dead just now, right before Nico got picked up. The Luminous Dead, I'm giving it 2 stars. I was getting into like star ratings of how I should rate this book because I didn't want to give it 1 star. I don't think I've given a book 1 star this year. If I do, I think I'm gonna reserve that for books that I've DNF'd. The reason I'm giving it 2 stars is because I really just was not invested in the characters at all. I didn't give a shit, didn't really care about the romance. I was skimming a lot of the time. They didn't really explain what a tunneler was. There was like one brief description of it and I wasn't scared. I just really wasn't invested in the characters and why Shire, I think, wanted to find her mom and blah blah blah. Books that I give 2 stars are books that I just really didn't care for, but I did manage to finish them, and I think books that I DNF I just really didn't give a shit about and I just got rid of are gonna be like books that I DNF'd. It's kind of sucks that I'm ending this video on a 2-star book, but I really was interested in seeing what would happen, and I really am interested in continuing this series. With starting this new series, I realized that people obviously have very different reading tastes. If I like watching someone and take in their recommendations, it doesn't always mean that I am going to like the same books that they do. With this, I learned that Riley and I have the same taste in romance books, so I should definitely be on top of those recommendations, but I might have to take the other recommendations with a grain of salt. I think I want to do a video just with her romance recommendations. I wish I could have included more of those. There's always next time. Although I only gave The Simple Wild 4.5 stars, I really liked that book, and I'm so interested in reading the second book, and I think I definitely want to buy it and read it as soon as it comes out. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please give this a big thumbs up and let Riley know that I did this video as well. And subscribe if you did, and keep a lookout for any other videos within this series. See you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.